Yeah, looking forward to competing. Next game on the schedule. Hope for a great crowd. Should be one of the best games in college basketball on Saturday. We have a lot of respect for Kansas program. I think they're a Final Four contender. Once again, they're competing for the conference championship this time of year, so we'll have to play really well to defend our home court, but that's our objective.
Same thing I asked the players, Coach. I guess, do you kind of feel that there's a little bit more of an emphasis on the senior leadership going into this game, especially the way that they kind of took the Kansas loss the last time?
I hope so. Like to think we're the kind of program that always has a chip on our shoulder, always looking to prove people wrong, always trying to compete and do things that have never been done here before. But certainly when somebody beats you as badly and soundly as they did the first game, I would hope from a competitive standpoint that the guys have an extra edge.
Kansas was able to do that first time. Obviously, a young team, not playing too well on the road so far. I guess what have you kind of seen from them just in the last couple tapes, or just kind of what you've seen from them over the last couple games?
Well, I sound like his agent this week, but it's true. Coach Self's done a great job coaching this team. He's basically changed the way they play, very similar to what Coach Drew's done at Baylor. They've had roster changes with injury and with leave of absence. I guess that's the correct term. And he's just turned them into almost a different team, but they're really, really good. To me, their freshmen are no longer freshmen. They played big, major minutes. They played more minutes than a lot of sophomores around the country, so I don't buy into the freshman deal anymore. Kansas has 7 or 8 players that are really, really good, and they've got a Hall of Fame coach. It's basically set them up, and they're playing a style of play right now that's really good for them.
Just kind of last one from me. In terms of Davide, what have you seen from him, just the way that he's been playing in terms of the assist-to-turnover ratio, just shooting the 3-ball, and then not only that, but then with the amount of minutes he's been able to log?
I mean, above all, consistency. We liked Morrow's game when we recruited him and his talent last year, but you're always looking for consistency. Everybody that's on a Big 12 roster is a really good player, or you wouldn't have a scholarship to play in the best league in the country, in my opinion. But what you're looking for is consistency. The difference between an all-conference player and a good player is consistency. A guy can score 16 points every single night, where the other guy can get it every third night. And I think Morrow, so far, there's a lot of basketball left. The verdict's not out, but certainly if he continues to play the way he's playing, then I think we'll reflect back here in April and think, man, Morrow had a great season. But I just think he's found a certain level of consistency with his game. And it's on both ends of the court, too. He's one of our best defensive players as well. There's so many good players in this league that everyone deserves any attention or ink they're getting. But I would think that Morrow is right there in consideration of all conference play in this league, just the way he's played and the way our team's won.
Chris, what have you seen from Dedric Lawson, and what kind of problems could he pose for y'all?
All sorts of problems. 99 problems, and Dedric Lawson is one. Do you know what I'm talking about there, Pete? Do you know that song? Who sings that? No, he's a National Player of the Year candidate for the right reasons. He's a skilled offensive just weapon. He can score behind the three-point line. He can drive it. He can score in the post. He might be the second best passer on their team. Again, Coach Self puts him in all the right positions. He plays at a pro's pace. He doesn't waste energy. He's very efficient. Then on the defensive end, he's very smart and intelligent. He has to play big minutes for them. I know it. He knows it. Coach knows it. I think the officials know it. So he's just smart with the way he plays defense. But I think he's Player of the Year in the Big 12 candidate, depending on who wins the championship down the stretch.
Coach, if it's anything like last year, there's a lot of energy for this game, being 7 o'clock at night, Kansas in town. How do you make sure your guys don't get too emotionally spent before the game and just can pace themselves throughout the day to be ready when it's tip-off?
Well, I think we prepare for these moments all year long with our process. We always say the biggest game on the schedule is the next game. We can't get too high or too low. So that's the first thing, just trust in the process that we set up and we try to execute every day. Secondly, our seniors, those 4 guys, they've got the pulse of the locker room. As the coach, you can only talk so much and kind of set the stage, but that culture is going to be executed every day by those seniors, and I have a lot of faith in our 4 guys. Then thirdly, I would say we just like to live in reality. And the reality of it is this is Kansas. This is a 7 o'clock national television game. This is why you come to Texas Tech to play in games like this. So it's a fine line between getting yourself ready and living in the moment, enjoying the opportunity. You've worked really hard to earn the right to play in a game like this. But you got to be yourself, too. You can't try to be somebody you're not.
Coach Beard, is this the most confident your team's been all season?
Like confidence is kind of a different category. People have different opinions on what that word means, but I think it comes through preparation. I think if you're prepared, you put in the time, then you're confident. I think if you don't, you're not. So I'd like to think that our program's always confident because it's not like we're working any harder this week than we did 3 years ago this week. I mean, we have a day-to-day process we believe in, and that's where our confidence comes from, just our daily work.
And lastly, how do you make sure the Jayhawks don't get that hot start from behind the three as they did the first matchup in Lawrence?
Yeah, I might just have to call a timeout every time they score in the first 4 minutes. I've thought about that. I did that one time with the South Carolina Warriors, and then it ended up being a one-possession game late, and I didn't have any timeouts left. So luckily, Marquise Gaines hit a fall-away three on the baseline. Thank you, Vet. No, it's an issue. In every college basketball game, the way we set it up is there's 10 4-minute games. And none of them are more important than the next. You can win games in different ways. You can win a game in the first 8 minutes by getting a big enough lead. You can win a game in the last 4 minutes, which we've seen around here a lot. You can win the game at the first of the second half. So certainly your question, the start of the game is very important because teams like Kansas, they're so well coached and they're experienced. Basically Kansas played in a game very similar to this just about a week ago at TCU. It was a game they had to win to stay in contention of the championship. It was a whiteout in Fort Worth. It was a sellout game, and they answered the call. So I expect Kansas to play great. I expect them to play maybe their best game of the year. So we'll have to have an answer for that. We'll have to equal that. And I'm confident we will. And we're ready to play. We're excited about this opportunity.